What's going on, everybody? It's Brandon, aka Mothman here. Run it back with Mimi. I have the third of the trifecta of the young talent in Valorant. First we talked to Upmine, then Sully, and now we got Mimi on board. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I know my branding's all aEvilcat, but I have the dog in my lap, so I'm chilling out, ready to talk some Valorant.
Who's that on your lap? I have to ask.
This is my friend Allie's dog. For those in like the community who do a lot of like the VCT or NSG events, probably know her. Her name's Aloe Online, and she admins for a lot of it. But I'm here at her apartment, so I get to borrow her dog for the interview.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming along. We appreciate it. Super excited to talk to you about some Valorant here. So
For
first
sure.
off, I saw your kind of cast preparation tweet, when you were at the LAN. Kind of really interested in how helpful the Mongolian throat singing is.
Yeah, Mongolian throat singing, obviously an essential to get things rolling. CS Surf, Mongolian throat singing. What else do you need to get things rolling? No, but yeah, I don't know. That was a fun time. Got to be out here in Philadelphia, goof around with some friends, get a little Counter-Strike action back in, and now we're back in action talking about Valorant, getting ready for champs. So, doing good.
Well, all joking aside, what goes into preparing for a cast?
Sure, sure. So more seriously, as the dog runs away from me, in preparing for a cast for me, there's kind of two facets to it, as there is preparing kind of with your duo and in way of like your mechanics and the flow of the show, and then preparing for the matches themselves. So for a show like LCQ for say, my main preparation in the teams department, excuse me, the main preparation in the teams department comes in just watching as many VODs, as many maps of all the teams as possible. So for those bigger events where I know there's going to be like 8, 10 teams, I'll try and watch every single map of every single team that I can, just to get a general idea. I make some really general notes while I'm watching them, so I have things to talk about for every map. I try and pull like a couple points per map, and then some more overarching story stuff about the team, history of players, history between the teams here, who are my favorites, what am I expecting in the event. And then when it comes to specific match prep, it's kind of rewatching some of those VODs, re-reviewing my own notes, and then structuring either the desk segment if I'm on the desk or the pre-show segment around that and the things I'm going to talk about during the show. Then, in way of prep with my duo and for the actual casts, it's first of all about kind of finding the tone of the tournament, right? Because I work events like the NSG weeklies or like this Frag CS event I just did that are just like really fun, right? You can goof around, you can be chill about it, crack some jokes on broadcasts, and then there's like the LCQs, or when you get later on into the VCT and you're talking about those regional finals, that kind of stuff. That's when you gotta kind of be a little more buttoned down, take that tone seriously. So the first thing is kind of realizing the broadcast, reflecting that, and then also this is one that I think a lot of people underestimate it, but like getting ready of any like sponsor segments I need to hit, anything like that. So I try and memorize all my ad reads. Like when I do like the Mike and Ikes or when I talk about BenQ, any of that, I always try and memorize it best as possible so I can try and be at least a little genuine when I do that kind of stuff, even if it is something we're required to hit on. Because I feel like the audience, it's just, they can tell when you're just reading off of a piece of paper. But then it's about kind of the preparation with your duo. If it's someone who I don't normally work with, it's talking about like how are the passes between us going to work. I try and get in a call the night before or a little before, just do practice cast 6 round of Valorant, just review it together. What was good? What was bad? What should we change? When I cast with some people, I'll have another just basically just like a full screen of their face up on one of my monitors so that they can hand signal as if we were on LAN, which helps to make some of the kind of awkwardness of online events go a little bit better. But it just kind of depends on the show. A lot goes into it. But once you get kind of into the flow with a duo, you don't have to get those basics down. So it's more like going back, reviewing your previous things, and setting kind of an expectation on what to work on going into a certain event.
So are we talking about like hours, days, weeks beforehand of preparation? How long would you say you're sitting down for one of those bigger events and looking at stuff? How early do you start when, as soon as you
Sure.
know that you're going to do it, or?
So I think the first thing is just kind of the trying to be an expert best you can on the scene, right? Watching all the events you can. I try and watch pretty much every game that any of like the top 10 teams in our region play. I try and watch the top teams from other regions just to stay up to date on like what is the meta, what are we looking for, what do teams do that's special. And then for a specific event prep, for a big event like a VCT LCQ or a VCT Challengers Finals, when I know my teams off the rip, it's probably about a week of prep specifically where I'm going and watching those VODs. When it's like the amateur, like tier 2 events and the challengers opens, you're kind of screwed because normally you don't know your teams until like the day before or the day of. Like there's sometimes for like VCT opens, we don't know our next match till 5 minutes before we have a pre-show. So a lot of the importance then isn't on the specific prep for the event. It's more so on the prep of just knowing the scene, knowing the players, being able to kind of, sometimes BS your way a little bit when it's those really last minute circumstances, but having that information to just be able to stay afloat on air. So for big events, I would say my estimate is it's probably about a week of prep. For smaller events, a couple days, but that depends on how up to date I'm feeling, right? Because I've been a little behind on Valorant because I just did DreamHack and I did Fragadelphia. So I've done a couple CS events, so I've missed some matches that I wanted to watch. I didn't get to watch the Game Changer stuff in EU. I didn't get to watch some of the other LCQ games not from NA that I wanted to see. So it's kind of going back, catching back up on that stuff and just trying to stay current with the game.
Okay, and I was going to kind of ask this later, but since you brought it up, working the last chance qualifier, just kind of want to know what your experience was, in that event. We had the 1 day of in-person action,
Yeah.
and then it got super delayed, forced it all to be online. What was your experience, whether, good or bad, that you want to speak on about it?
Sure. So overall, I would say it was a pretty positive experience. We went there. I was super thankful to be able to do the event, and the initial slating was that I would not get any casting whatsoever. I was only going to be on the desk for that event when it was in person, and that was my expectation. I came in with my preparation for just like the 8 teams. I was going to do my segments day 1. All good, right? It's awesome. I get to work with my friends in person. I get to see the teams in person. It's a really cool set. And then day 2, well, we show up to the venue. I was going to, with my friends on Plat Chat, I was going to be on their couch for that day. I wasn't working, so I was just there to chill out. And then like one of the producers walks in. It's like, well, we're going to be delaying. You guys should probably just go home and chill out. So then it was kind of cool because it was like we just got to hang out in LA with like literally everyone I know from esports, and we were still in our paid hotels. We were still being flown out there. So even though it was really depressing that we didn't get to play and we didn't get to have that full LAN experience, it was still a cool opportunity. And it almost felt like more like kind of a networking event than anything. Just getting to know my colleagues. I got to meet some of the guys who work Rainbow Six Siege, who were also there for another event. I got to meet a couple other random people from around esports. It was just a really cool opportunity. Of course, it was depressing we didn't get the LAN, but in going online, I'll be honest, I kind of benefited in a way because I still had my desk segments, and then me and Upmind got to cast together, which I was super hyped about because I feel like that event I don't know what Sully or Gus said about this when you talked to them, but I feel like that event and some of those bigger ones like the Challengers Playoffs was kind of to prove that we're not just like the young people who have some fun with it and are like the funny people, because we can't be that, because oftentimes we're put on the games that requires that the storyline isn't as obvious. You do need to build a little bit more of that energy, a little bit more of that fun in, but I think it was a good opportunity to prove that we were more than that and that we could be the same level of professional broadcasters as all of our peers. And I think for the most part we achieved that with the 2 casts we managed to put out. So in a way, going online was awesome. Of course, it was sad to not be able to see the players' faces, but Riot, they just got super unlucky with a lot of stuff. Obviously, there was mistakes. There'll always be mistakes, but so much of that was just like, oh, it's LA County rules, and then there's just like unlucky thing after unlucky thing and tech pause after tech pause. But I think we made the best out of it. I think it was still a pretty good show to watch at home, and it had character.
Yeah, and me and Upmind, we did speak on it a little bit. I kind of mentioned how you guys bring a fresh perspective kind of to the scene. This isn't to bag on anybody that's been in it for a while or anything like that. But they maybe have just the same routine or the same thing that people have seen, and maybe their comfort is in that area, and that's okay. But you guys, you come into Valorant, it's a new game. You're young, you have the kind of, like I said, fresh perspective. You might bring something new to the table. And I think that's really exciting. That's why I wanted to talk to all 3 of you guys.
Yeah, so I think what's different is that perspective shift, because a lot of the folks who are more endemic to the scene, who are more established in this game, they all come from somewhere else. Like a lot of our big talent in this one come from CS. Alex Vansili, he's been working since before I was born, casting Counter-Strike. I mean, there have been people who have been around for ages, but Migas and Sully are all like brand new to it. So I think this is especially true for me, maybe even a little more so than them, because Gus, everyone's like, oh, he's a young guy, he's down here with us, and that's true. but he's also a couple years older than both me and Selly, and he's also been working in esports for like the last 5 years, which isn't a lot, but in esports years, it's a pretty sizable chunk. But for me, I've only just been casting about a year. Valorant was the first ever game that I even considered it was a possibility to cast. So my whole style of commentary, of course, everyone draws inspirations from everywhere, right? You steal things from other casters, you steal things from media. That's kind of what it's true of any art. Nothing is fully original. Everything is always stolen in a way. But I think that my style and some of the younger folks' style, it comes up from Valorant. It's not the adaptation of another game into this one. Of course, we all draw inspiration, but I think that does give me specifically and us in general a bit of an individuality, but you can also see issues in the same way, right? Because there are things you learn after years and years, and I feel like in a lot of ways, my big goal with Valorant and with this journey in casting has been kind of playing the catch-up, because I know I'm good, I know I can do my job well, but I have a lot of room to grow. I still haven't hit my ceiling, and I'm trying to kind of follow in those people's footsteps. And because honestly, so much of the talent in this game is super kind and willing to do VOD reviews with you, willing to chat because they want to see the younger talent succeed. It's been amazing to be able to kind of draw my own stuff, but also be able to pull from this like well of information of all of these people, like Dan, Sean, Ventili, all these people who have like years of broadcasting experience or years of playing competitively. And it's just amazing to be able to kind of create that mix and start to, like, I think we're slowly starting to see the style of commentary for Valorant find its kind of own unique form. Like if you look at like not just like me and Gus or anyone, like anyone from the LCQ or in NA or in EU as well, compared to like Counter-Strike or compared to like the first couple months of Valorant when it was like Golden Boy and Puckett. And don't get me wrong, they're great, but they're not uniquely Valorant. And I think we're starting to build towards that, which is exciting.
Well, if I had to ask you, who your favorite maybe EU casters, as you brought it up, what name would you throw out?
I would throw out Pansy for sure. I mean, Lauren's been an inspiration for me since I was just getting started. Like when I was first even like thinking about casting, it was when I was watching like in like my last year of high school, when I was watching just a ton of ESL Pro League in Counter-Strike before Valorant was really, I think before Valorant had even come out. And she was on that desk, and it was kind of like, I don't like to try and make a bunch of stuff about gender because it really isn't. I'm just a broadcaster. I'm the same as the rest of my peers. But it was kind of cool to see another woman doing it. And I mean, in her own right, I think she is, if not the best, one of the best play-by-play casters that we have in this game. She's really talented. She has a huge depth of knowledge. I've been able to talk with her some and just communicate. She's a super nice person and super talented. So I'm a big fan of her. I would say that that's probably one of the like inspirations. I'd say in NA as well, Sean, just because his color is amazing. No one else has that depth of experience, right? Dan comes from professional playing. There's other casters that come from professional playing, but this guy, I feel like his key is being able to identify win conditions in like such a short amount of time, which is very uniquely Valorant. When he worked CS, he had so much more time to work with because it was normally a desk, but he's taken that hop over to the fast pace and these quick time slots that he has to build into, and just does it very well.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of that about both of them. We see a lot of different people that came into Valorant, and they all have their own kind of styles. Like I feel like, you mentioned Pansy. She kind of has the tone where when you're listening to her, it makes you kind of feel bad for the teams when something goes wrong,
Yeah.
Or when you listen to Sean, it gets you super hyped up about those kind of things, or makes you feel like they're going to be able to turn it around. They all have their different styles and tones of how it affects you and how you feel when you're listening to it. What would you say your kind of tone or style is that you want to bring to the casting desk?
I think my style is I like to continually ask and re-answer questions and just try and put the audience into an inquisitive mindset. I think probably my inspiration for that style is Sean, because you can hear when he realizes something. Like it's almost like, I would call it childish, but I mean that in an endearing way, like the curiosity of a child being able to just like see something and just snap towards that realization, and you can hear it with him on broadcast, which I love. Like you'll probably, if you listen to my commentary, you notice I ask a lot of questions that maybe at that point in my broadcast I don't know the answer to yet. I try and stage up the audience to think about something, and I mean everyone does that, right? Like everyone sets win conditions. It's what you do as a color caster. But I try and, I don't know, I guess my tone is trying to bring that expectation and bring that question to the audience, but also one of the more high energy color casters in this game. I mean, I'm young. I'm kind of a spaz. I talk really fast a lot of the time. It's things that I work on to try and improve, but it's also something that is kind of my style, right? Like I love bringing that energy, and I love being able to bring with people. That's why it's so fun to have been able to work with Gus for this event, because Valorant's not Counter-Strike, right? Counter-Strike kind of pushed its way towards this, I don't want to say lethargic, but it's slower style of commentary with a lot of dead air, and dead air's great for building tension, but I think that in this game there's so much to be said, and there's so much energy, and you can kind of I think you can feel that in watching the gameplay, and I think that in a way the commentary should reflect that. So trying to bring that fun while still being informative as possible is my main goal with my tone.
Awesome. Well, I want to kind of bring it back to preparation one last time.
Sure.
I have to put the shameless plug in. We have the stats here at Run It Back. How does looking at stats, whether it's our tool or anywhere else, how do those tools and analytics help you with the knowledge that you can spit out on stream, answer those questions that you're bringing up to the viewers?
Sure. So I think that analytics in this game takes a bit more of a back seat once you're actually on broadcast. I think it's much more prevalent and much better for the desk, because with this game, I mean, think we have like 25 seconds or 30 seconds of freeze time, and then rounds are super short. You're fighting for space super early on, and as a broadcaster, you always want to stay tuned to the present. You want to stay attuned to what's happening on screen. So it's something that a lot of people struggle with, myself included, in this game, where you have this great stat in your head. You're like, oh yeah, like Leaf is such an aggressive jet. He's going to be mid on breeze every single round, and I have this cool heat map that reflects it and all this stuff. But where do you find the time for that on broadcast? It's really hard. I think what makes someone good is being able to identify when those stats can get plugged in and when they should just be kept to yourself. Because numbers are great, but when you say a number and then have to explain it, it's almost additive, where you can just try and explain something, and then if you have time, insert the number. That's great. That's why I think that the analyst desk is so important to this game compared even to something like Counter-Strike, because we don't have the time to break that stuff down. That's why I love telestrator segments, and like segments where the desk talent is allowed to bring up their own graphics and bring up heat maps and stuff like that, because that's when the audience can dive deeper, because it's like the commentators in game setting these questions and then the desk answering that. But to loop back my very long response, I think that the biggest part of analytics is finding it in preparation, because then you can identify things before they're happening, right? And that's why I especially love Run It Back. I'm not trying to shill for you guys, but it's legitimately a good software to be able to hash out those things and see what you want to expect ahead of time, because Valorant has its shortcomings, and one of those is we don't have demos. So if the observer didn't catch something in a round, you will not know what happened unless you go back and you try and pull that info. And it's kind of complicated right now, right? Like even with Run It Back, which is amazing software, you have to kind of learn how to use the Discord bot, or you have to pay the money to get the scouting reports, which most people will probably not do unless you're like on-screen analyst or you're with a team. So being able to find those niche things that you can pull out in broadcasts, and when you find the time, throwing them in only adds to the audience experience. But to kind of wrap up my thesis, it's that statistics are something you should always have in the back of your head and be able to base your points on them, because this is a game where being a predictive caster really, really benefits. When you're looking ahead, when you make that gamble, sometimes you'll be wrong, but when you're right, it sounds good on broadcast, and it helps the audience understand what the expectation is, and you can only really get that if you're good at reviewing through the stats and you know how to manipulate that.
Well, now I want to kind of shift the subject to the Game Changers events. I know you've casted those. They've been a huge inspiration for the community, a huge part played for some teams who just want to find a place to play. Cloud9 White obviously has taken all three of the NA series so far. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that team, and how did they become the dynasty they are in these Game Changers events?
Cloud9's really, really good. I mean, they have 5 individually gifted players, and I think that the star of the team is always going to be Mel, because she's so strong on an individual level. She's a really good IGL. She's been working with it since I mean, since she was playing in Counter-Strike, she had a stint in Fortnite. I mean, she has been trying to make the competitive thing a reality for so long, and has finally found it on this team. And she brings a depth of knowledge that I don't think we have many other female, especially IGLs in this game who do. I mean, Valorant in general has a lack of good IGLs, which is why I think there's a world pretty soon where Mel goes to a mixed team. But I think that for Cloud9, it's just they have the dominant players and they've had the time as a team. Most other female rosters are so young, not only in terms of experience from other games, but also in terms of experience as a team. Like CLG, they just completely gutted it. They were the other main competitor. Shopify have been playing together for a bit, but none of those players really have much experience. KP, and she was just like a tier 2, tier 3 CS player. No insult to her, but they haven't had the time to work out the same issues that Cloud9 has been able to work through, because every team hits that plateau where things stop working, where people start getting frustrated, and for most teams that's when you see someone leave or the org steps in and something gets changed. But for them, they've managed to stick through that plateau into the kind of next stage of learning, which I think is why they've become elevated above really anyone else in the scene right now.
That kind of brings me on to my next topic I wanted to discuss. Obviously we want to see all these teams succeed. It's safe to say most of us want to see all of them perform well. But in these kind of other tournaments, we saw the Valorant Elite Showdown, Gen.G Black, CLG Red, Dignitas, Shopify, even Cloud9 White, they all dropped, in the group stage. So kind of what do they have to do to succeed outside of the Game Changers events? Is it just kind of the experience that you mentioned, or is there something else that they might need to do?
If you're a female team and you're not playing open events, it's stupid. Honestly, it is a waste of time to be a female team that doesn't play open events. This is something that I've been very staunch about throughout my time. I think female events are important to build up a scene and get us to the point where we can have mixed rosters, because right now the only mixed roster we had was EG, and I think we can all agree that was a resounding failure. So I think that for these teams, it's grinding the opens. Cloud9 has been playing every VCT Open, a ton of the NSG weekly events, the NSG monthlies for those Summer Champs qualification spots. They've been playing every Game Changers. But the thing is, their priority isn't winning Game Changers, right? They don't really care about that. Like, obviously, they'll take another $50,000. Thanks, John Riot. We appreciate the money. But I think their main focus, and when I've talked to Mel, their focus has always been qualifying to VCTs. That's what their eyes are set on. They almost didn't play in a Game Changers once because it would have cut down their practice time towards the main VCT. If you're a female team, your focus shouldn't be that you're a female team. Who cares, right? Like, frankly, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. Am I?
Sure, as long,
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Why not?
We'll keep it reasonable. But we'll save that for now. But I think that for female teams, it doesn't really matter that you're female. It's great that women are able to be empowered and have this opportunity to get a door in, but Game Changers should only ever be a door in my opinion.
Okay, and back to how you said Mel, you see her possibly being on a mixed team in the future
Sure.
because of her in-game leading abilities. Let's kind of take a look at maybe some fantasy rosters here, if you don't
I like
mind.
this.
Maybe some of these, female players that you saw in the Game Changers events. Where do you think they might fit on a mixed team? If you could pick 1, 2, maybe even 3 out and replace a player on a team with them, where you think they might fit?
This is interesting. I'm trying to think who has a leadership vacuum right now. TSM, obviously, because they lost out on Hayes. That's gone. But I think they're signing the EG guys, so obviously that wouldn't happen. But if we're talking realistically, I think the team that would benefit most is a team that has like some cracked young players. I mean, almost similar to I think what we've seen with XZ in the way that team was elevated in bringing in Death, and what Zekken has been molded into is a better player now. The same is kind of true of the new Cloud9 Blue, right? With bringing in Vanity's leadership. I think that in general we have lacking IGLs in this game, but I think Mel could go into a leadership position in a lot of teams, but I think it would be better if it was something that could kind of come a little bit more up to the ground, where she can help to build it and help to form the players, because that's what makes Cloud9 so good. They didn't pick and choose and slot people in. They've built this team up from the ground, which I think is where in a lot of ways you can find the most success. In terms of other players that I could see like hop on out of the female team, I think that people really sleep on Cat on C9. Like obviously there's some bigger stars, but I think Cat is a really really good controller player. Another thing that we're kind of lacking good controller players in NA, and she has super strong mechanics on an individual level, and is obviously good in team play. For other teams, I mean, I think that there's a lot of like young women in the female scene right now that are just like crazy jets. Like we have a fair few of them. Like I know Claudia had her chance on EG, but they were putting her in smokes jail. She never looked comfortable on that roster to me. She's super strong player. Um, God, I don't know. Now I'm like blanking out on all the female players I'd normally think of. But I think there's a world in the future where a lot of these players do move on out, because think about who's coming from another game. Like you have Ari from Battalion, you have some of the CLG and Dig girls coming from CS, but I want to say that like the majority of the female players in this game, this is like their first competitive experience. So I think the team just needs or the scene, excuse me, just needs a little bit more time to mature, and we will start seeing more people like Mel get spit out and have those opportunities on bigger teams, or on mixed teams, that is.
Yeah, I completely have to agree with that. I know a lot of these, women put in a ton of work, a ton of time to perform at the highest level, and it's only a matter of time before they do.
Yeah.
And I really think it's only a matter of time before we possibly see two Cloud9 teams, in the main event of a tournament or,
Yeah.
or a qualifier or something
Yeah,
like that.
and I mean that's what makes it so great, because the reason that this is flourishing as a scene is because Riot has allowed it. No one else has put this much into a women's scene ever, which I give Riot a lot of credit for. They did a damn good job at building up a strong female team, and it's because organizations are financially incentivized to pull out a female team, because obviously there's probably times where organizations are buying into female teams because it's good PR for them. Like let's not beat around the bush. It's good PR for an org to have a female team. Like, whoa, we care about diversity and inclusion. That's awesome. But the thing is that there is a level of profitability to it, because you get to play in the main circuit as well as in these game changers events, which, while they're competitive, right, there's even more chances to make money off of that. So I like the way it's been set up thus far. And I like I mean, I hope that at some point we get like an academy circuit. I'd imagine it'll come soon with a similar setup to continually kind of set teams up to develop talent. Because right now, what I want to see out of the female scene is almost it be like a pseudo academy circuit where you build up these players, you discover this talent that maybe wouldn't otherwise get their shot in the normal tier 2 scene, and try and build them through that. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another Cloud9 team now. Cloud9 Blue, I wouldn't really say it was, out of nowhere, but it certainly seemed like they just propelled to the top in a short amount of time after they made their changes to the roster. Were they on your radar at all to get that last champion spot?
I'm gonna be honest. I was on the major exit copium. I was one of those people.
Me
I was
too.
like, I think there was like me and like two other people at the LCQ who predicted exit, but I really like those boys. I think they have a lot of potential. I was on that copium. But I did have high hopes for Cloud9. I mean, I was never into the comp scene in CS, but I come from CS. I watched Chaos play a ton, and they were a damn good team back in CS. And Vanity coming on over, he's a really intelligent caller. His kind of cerebral ideas of the game and the way he plays in the mid round is excellent. And you give him two just insane players on the individual level in Zeppa and Leaf, who already have that synergy together. It's awesome. And then you add in Autumn, who gets to work with Anthony and kind of coach together and bring up the ideas and try and incorporate the KO. And like this Cloud9 team, they showed me a lot of creativity as well as the synergy and the individual skill we built them up for. And Zeta as well. He's a really variable player. I think a lot of people sleep on him in that team, because obviously you're like, oh my god, Leaf, oh my god, Zeppa, and then we have like Vanity, funny judge man in the mix. But I think Zeta is honestly, like, his shock darts are some of the best of any Sova in our region. He's super strong on the agent, and he has variability to him. And then Mitch is he's just an anchor. He just has some nice base level consistency, keeps the team at ease, and I mean, they're built together. I didn't see them winning the event. I saw them top 3 from the very beginning. I was someone who I didn't have high faith in 100 Thieves coming into the event, and well, that kind of came true. 100 Thieves did not have a great run whatsoever. I think that people overhyped them a little bit because they had their run at Berlin, but I don't think any team is going to lose their IGL, get like completely gutted in that way, and then have to kind of rebuild in a matter of like 3 weeks and go win a tournament. I didn't see that one happening. So for me, it was always Cloud9 XZ as my big two.
Yeah, and I can't obviously speak on behalf of Cloud9 Blue, but from what I observed, I was at the press conferences after Last Chance qualifiers. I had some interviews with the guys and everything like that, and this is the part where, yeah, we can swear if we want. It feels like, they take it seriously and stuff, but at the same time, it feels like they just don't give a shit, about what anybody else has to say, about what anybody else is doing. They go in, they play the game, and then when they're done with the game. They're having fun. They're themselves. And I feel like that, not taking themselves too seriously and not getting too much into their own heads, I think that's what shot them to, champions, for sure.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, remember, they're friends. They've been playing together for years. They've known each other for years. You're just kind of adding a couple new faces into your friend group that you've had since Counter-Strike and just having a good time with the game. I think that's been true of pretty much every team that Vanity has been on as well, right? That was kind of the case of V1 back at Iceland. They were just big chilling. They were just having a good time. They were there to play and have some fun at it. And I think they achieved, and Cloud9 is showing that as well. There's a lot of teams that take themselves too seriously and then underperform and start to fall apart and crumble under that pressure they've created for themselves. But I don't think that it's not that Cloud9 doesn't play with pressure. Obviously they do. All players do. Everyone wants to succeed, and all these guys are very dedicated to winning. But they can create that environment where it doesn't cripple the team if things go wrong. We've seen the comebacks that they have pulled off. It happened a lot at LCQ, where they come back from these pretty crushing circumstances and look good. Like, I think about that map that got delayed a day versus Rise, where they go into day number 2 with 1 round of overtime and they lose. I'd be pissed if I was them. If my opponent's internet went down and suddenly I've lost a map that I probably would have won otherwise, but they were just chilling, recover, win the last 2 maps, all good.
Well, yeah, we and they, of course, have champions to look forward to now. We saw the groups and the schedule get put out earlier. Just really quick, your first reaction to the champions groupings.
It is going to be interesting with the champions group. I'm gonna pull them up for myself again, just so I'm talking out of fact. But I think the group for me, which one? I think it was Group D that looks crazy. Yeah, Group D. Fnatic C9, Vision Strikers, Full Sent. I don't know what to expect out of that group. I can see Fnatic C9 going either way. Like, I see a world where, like, I think Fnatic should win that match, but I see a world where C9 wins that match on out. And I think that, to be honest, people sleep on Full Sense a little bit. Like, they're not too shabby of a squad. I think that I don't think they're going to get out the group in any world, but I think that they're going to put up more of a fight than people expect. I think Vision Strikers, at least I would hope, that they're assured to make it out of that group, but between Fnatic and C9, that one is such a massive kind of back and forth toss-up, that's the word I'm looking for. And then the other one I had my eyes on was Group B. That's Crew, Liquid, Sen, Furia. Crew and Liquid will be an interesting match in my book. I'm not the radical Crew fan Twitter account who is going to constantly say Crew's going to win champions, but they've improved every event they've been at, and I don't think this one is going to be any different.
Awesome. Well, now it's time to get a little wild, if you don't mind. I want you to give me 3 crazy predictions, 3 long shots that you could see happening at Champions, maybe ones that you want to see happen. Just throw them out there.
Envy's winning Champions. I'd say that's my long shot. That's my long shot, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. They're just a really solid team, and I think that I think that for this squad, there's a world where they can beat Gambit, and I think that there's a very realistic world. Like, looking at their group, Cade Stars, Ascend, X10, Envy, there's not a world where they're not making it out of that group. Like, that is I don't want to make fun of any of these teams, but I feel like it's kind of an easy group for them. They owned 100 Thieves. They looked really strong against Sentinels, and I'm excited to see what they have. Obviously, I'm pissed at what the org did in completely screwing over Mike's, because he is an amazing coach, and Chet has not had results in this game. I don't know the guy personally. I'm not going to say anything rude about him. He just hasn't had results in this game yet. I know he knows the players really well, so I'm hoping for the best for the players and for him, but I don't know what that's going to look like. So I might be on a little bit of Envy hopium from the last event, but I think there's a world where they win. I think my hotter take probably is that Sentinels is not going to make it that deep. I don't think Sentinels makes the grand finals. They're a good team. They have really amazing players, but the competition has just improved so much every event. And again, I don't think it's going to be different here. I hope that they've had a wake-up call, that coaching will come back, because it's a team I want to see succeed. Obviously, I want NA on top. I want us to have our dominant streak back. And I mean, what like an anime arc that would be, like, oh, we lose, we get knocked down, our hubris gets the better of us at the first land, and then you come back stronger and win it. But
I don't know if you watched the Sully interview yet, but that is exactly what he said.
Is what he said?
Sentinels are on an anime protagonist redemption arc, and there's no way they lose.
Of course, that's what he said. Sully is such a massive weeb, but yeah, I think there's a world where they lose early. I'm hoping for better stuff out of them. Trying to think, what other hot takes do I have?
Yeah, just one more. One more crazy prediction.
One more. I don't know how crazy this is, but Cloud9's going to get out of the group over Fnatic.
So you're thinking Fnatic doesn't? You're
I
thinking
think
Vision
Fnatic
Strikers Cloud9?
I think Vision Strikers Cloud9 out of that group. I don't think Fnatic makes it out. I don't know. Like, Fnatic is a pretty solid team. I like that they've brought in the coaching as well of Anders as an assistant. They still have Mini in the equation, and they're a really strong team. We've seen them before, but that Cloud9 team has given me some faith. I don't want to sleep on the Chaos 9 boys on LAN. I think there's a very, very real possibility that Fnatic loses. And also, I just realized Champions is only 2 weeks away. That's insane.
It's coming up really quick.
Yeah.
Well, now give me 3 things that definitely won't happen at Champions. I know how you already kind of mentioned Fnatic won't go, Sentinels won't go, but 3 crazy predictions that won't happen besides those.
3 things that will not be happening. EU will not be winning. Doesn't count if Gambit wins. Gambit's a CIS team.
Okay.
Doesn't count.
I agree.
EU's not winning. That's first off that I think is not happening whatsoever. What else do I have? What other craziness can I perchance concoct? I think that Brazil might finally make it out of the groups. I think that Vikings have a good chance in their group. Secret, Crazy Raccoons. I think that Brazil have a chance to. I think they're going to get absolutely owned by Gambit, and they're going to get like double 13-0'd or something ridiculous. But I think there's a world. I think they probably do get out of groups, and that they put up a fight in playoffs. Who knows? Again, like, that's another one of those teams that they've been at all 3 lands, and they have improved. But between both of them before, so maybe,
that would be the definitely won't happen. Will be that Brazil won't fail.
Did it the wrong way.
Brazil definitely won't flop this time. Is what
I can't say that. I can't say Brazil definitely won't flop. He probably got enough of that in Gus's interview. Definitely won't happen then. Crazy Raccoons is not making it out of groups.
You don't think so? I'm a huge Crazy Raccoon fan.
Really?
I am on the.
I love the branding. I want them to succeed. But
I do. I'm on the Munchkin train. I love Munchkin.
The Munchkin. I want to be a Munchkin fanboy.
Exactly. You want these things to happen, but then as in the
you just get struck with a big train of realism, and then it's like
in the areas that we're in, we sometimes have to be realistic rather than hopeful.
Yeah. What's one more thing I'm thinking for this event that is definitely not gonna happen? I don't think we're gonna have the same finals matchup again. I don't think it'll be. I don't know if it's gonna be NV Gambit again. I think that we will get something new. I think that the competition keeps changing. Well, I had a little bit of doubt on Sen. There's a world where Sen just runs it back and they go crazy. There's a world where Fnatic runs it back and they go crazy. Like, I think the gap between these teams, people overestimate how far apart these teams are. Like, I think that Gambit, they're not indestructible. They won one LAN. Like, that's why I was always one of the people who was like, actually, this isn't a Sentinels era. Because it never was. They were winning in NA competitions against teams that it just felt like they could outgun every day of the week. Like, I was never convinced that they were going to be some big, amazing team that forever is going to be great. I think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're really amazing. But I don't think that they established their streak of dominance yet, and I don't think we're going to see that happen yet. Valorant is just too explosive a game stuff changes. Like, we will have new agents. We will have a new map in the pool at this event. So much changes between each and every event, both within rosters and within the game itself. It's not like CS, where you go in and nothing changes for like 4 years. Like, it is constantly evolving, and I think that means that we're not likely to get a dynasty, at least not yet. I don't think a team has proved to me that they're at that point where they can create like a long-term, like an entire year of the VCT where they're just rolling. At least internationally, that is. Nationally, 100%. Yeah, Sentinels can own everyone in NA. All good.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. With the game being still as new as it is, you're going to see things happen that you might think shouldn't happen, or things not go the way that the script has it, so to speak. That's definitely what we saw with Gambit. Nobody doubted Gambit was going to win.
But no one thought that they were going to win.
Yeah, the fact that actually happened was,
and it wasn't even Sentinels, right? Everyone was like, oh, it's going to be Sentinels, 100%. And it was Envy out of nowhere. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that is all I had. Awesome discussion. I loved speaking with you. Loved hearing your thoughts on everything. What's next for you, Mimi?
What is next for me? I'm trying to think. What is coming up for me? Couple smaller Valorant events, couple CS events. It's the off season, so things are slowing down a little bit. I'm just excited to get to sit down and watch Champions and see what's coming up with that. If you do want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, it's just at aEvilcat on Twitter. If I'm not doing an event, I'll always be doing some dumb shit posting over there anyway. So that's probably what's coming soon for me.
Awesome. Well, again, Brandon with Run It Back here with Mimi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.